Tom, I'd love it if you can share a biographical sketch of what inspired you to be a bodybuilder and how that passion ultimately led to Total Gym, because I've seen pictures of you when you were a competitive bodybuilder. You were a stud.
Yeah, I guess I was. Huh?
Yeah, you were. You were built,
well,
man.
where it really started was when I was young, let's say in my early, 12, 13 years old. I'm a little guy. I mean, I'm only, like I say, I grew a half inch in the last couple of months, but I've been shrinking ever since.
Yeah.
So I was 5'6", and so being small, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. So I got into sports. I played football in high school, and then I had a critical motorcycle accident when I was 16. I was driving down the road. Car turned in front of me, went through the windshield, ended up on the side of the street with my leg all broken and everything, and waking up in the hospital, getting the last rites, and coming through that. And it was the old school, Paul, where they put the weighted string on your leg.
Oh, yes, your traction.
And you laid in the hospital for 6 months.
Nice. That'll give you some meditation time.
Oh, won't it? And atrophy time.
Yes.
Atrophy time. So I came out of that. I couldn't play football anymore because of the injury. So I got into weightlifting, into bodybuilding. But in the bodybuilding in the 60s, you didn't want anybody to know you were a bodybuilder.
No, it was too out there.
It wasn't really the greatest thing to say what you were doing. So, and for me, it was for my own personal benefit.
Yeah.
So I got into competition. I was blessed enough to have a trainer. I don't know if you ever met my trainer, John Biselli.
Yes, I met him at one of your Christmas parties. Yeah, neat guy.
Unbelievable guy. And, he had a couple of themes, and some of his themes were quality, not quantity.
Yes.
You're a little guy, Tom. You're never going to be big. If you use the steroids, I'm out of here. So I never did. I never got into the steroids. Yeah. He was an interesting guy. He was self-taught sculptor, really understood the body. Anyway, so he trained me, and we competed until from about 65 to 70, 71. Wow. And did fairly well. We did fairly well. Yeah. We were on covers of magazines, and we won certain titles and all that. But it was always for me an accomplishment of whatever goal we had set.
Right.
It was more important to, grow and accomplish than it was to be, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever.
Right.
And of course, one interesting story in 1970, I took a trip to the West Coast because I grew up on the East Coast in Philadelphia to learn the secrets, Paul. Yeah. Yeah, I learned the secrets real quick. You're working your legs, you're shooting steroids into your legs. You're working you're doing all kinds of, you're smoking the pot to get an appetite. So I learned the secrets. They were the secrets. These guys were drug addicts. Yeah. I mean, no wonder they were so.
Nothing's changed.
So huge. Of course, it's even different now. But, I would go to the gym and I'd work out hard as hell. And these guys would be working out maybe not
a third of that.
Yeah. And you'd watch them grow.
Yes.
Anyway, time to get out. Got out in the 70s and said, you know what? I've got to get out of Philly. I can't handle it here. Attitude, weather. Yeah. Moved to Florida. I lasted 2 weeks, got out of there. Came to Southern California, San Diego. The attitude, the weather. Yeah. I was done the bodybuilding career, but I had kind of made an interesting pact with God, and I said, look, I need to get out of here. I need to get to Southern California. I want to start my own business. I want to, meet a girl, because I was in a very frivolous lifestyle as a lifeguard and all that. Yeah. And uncanny as it is, and truthful as it is, within 6 months I was in San Diego. I had met Joy, and we had started the Total Gym business in September of that year, 1974. Wow. And what got me started on Total Gym was I was introduced to the concept, the incline plane concept. Very primitive concept when I saw it. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, to me, it was magic. Mm-hmm. It was magic. I mean, I had built, like you had said, your pulley systems. I had all this stuff in my garage, and and when I saw that simple I thought, wait a minute, I can get on this, and I can change the hill and access more weight. Mm-hmm. I can just change my body position, my hand position, and change the exercise. Yeah. There's no limit. Right. There's no limit. Mm-hmm. So we started to develop the product. We had like $3,500, and we started building through a little shop in San Diego and started to show it to all the people I knew in the bodybuilding world. And of course, they just would laugh at it. They'd laugh at it. I would put them on there and just kick because it's very elusive.
That's what they did when I showed them the Swiss ball. Yeah, they laughed at me and they called me a fag. They said, what are these colored balls? Get them out of the gym.
Yeah, because they're so versatile as we see it, but they're so elusive in that fact you get them on there.
Yeah.
And I can remember one guy, Bill Pearl's gym, big guy, 20-inch arms, what is this thing? Put them on, one incline, put them up a little bit, get them going, unhook the pulley, do some dead weight in the bathroom puking. You could manipulate those guys pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think from the very beginning, my passion towards that simple concept was just unwavering. I mean, I just said, someday everybody has got to have a total gym.
Well, you pretty much did that.
Well,
pretty much.
5 million.
A lot. That's a lot. That's everybody, Tom.
Okay. But the interesting thing was we were sitting on the beach one day, Doug Marino and I, who started the company, and we were doing, a little bit of weed. And we were coming up with a name, and he came up with the Total Gym name.
Wow.
Which was just brilliant, Total
Where
Gym.
did you first see the concept?
In San Diego.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who was it that had that?
There was a company here called Dynagym, and they were marketing a really cheap, I always called it a cheap lawn furniture. But they were pyramid selling it. And they got shut down by the FTC in about 2 years because they were ripping people off.
Right.
But I saw the concept, but it wasn't developed at all.
Yeah.
And we took it from there and developed it. And then you'll remember, how old were you in 74?
74, I was 17.
Okay, so this won't relate to you, but there were no cell phones. There were no fax machines.
Well, I remember that, yeah.
There was really no market for fitness equipment. There was Sears with a little pedal bike and
Yeah.
a few things here and there, and then eventually there were some stores that started to develop to sell exercycles. You remember the exercycle?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there was really no way to market this product. And we started at the Del Mar Fair.
Oh, wow.
Remember that? Remember
Yeah,
the
of
Del
course,
Mar
yeah,
Fair? We would work out. We would demonstrate. People would get on it. And
The world's greatest traffic jam.
Exactly. But we started to meet people. So we met a guy from Loma Linda University, saw the product, said, hey, you need to come to one of our health fairs.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll go to the health fair. Long story short, we did a little research and we found out that there was a convention for everything.
Yes.
Everything. And we started to do trade shows. And we ended up getting up to 200 trade shows a year.
Yes.
With 6 guys.
That's intense.
It's very intense.
Yeah.
But we were able to expose ourselves to a vast different disciplines.
Yeah.
And that's what got us into the rehab market. I heard about Gary Gray, doing his seminars. I called him up and said, hey, is there any way we can maybe be in the back of one of your seminar rooms, And Gary saw the value of the Total Gym.
Yeah.
And for 10 years, we were in the back of his seminars. I can remember when he had 25 people. Then he had 35. Then he got up to,
150.
150. And almost every clinic, there was, as you know, there was a paradigm shift in the early 80s away from isokinetic training into more body weight, open chain versus
I was
chain.
one of the guys who gave the science to drive that movement.
Exactly. And that's what we met you in that era, in that whole closed chain era.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to us, the Total Gym was the perfect closed chain squatting machine.
And open chain movements as well. That's the beauty. That's sort of why the name Total Gym is so appropriate, because it is extremely versatile.
It is. And that's the number one reason why people buy it.
And that's why I wanted to work with you guys and did all those videos.
Yeah.
And, I think there's nothing more powerful than a simple tool with broad application. I mean, think of a hammer. It's very simple, but without one, you really wish you had one.
Hard to put that nail in.
Yeah, if you own a house and you don't have a hammer, you're stuck.
It's very true.
If you own a gym and you don't have good equipment, you don't really have much. A yoga studio.
Talking about that, we started to do the American Physical Therapy Association trade shows.
Right.
One of the first ones we did, I had the board of directors of the American Physical Therapy Association come up to our booth and look at me and go, don't ever come back here again. This is a gimmick. This is a joke. Don't ever come back again. And I thought to myself, these guys are physical. So anyway, 5 years later, we were on the board of directors of the American Physical Therapy Foundation for Research. Obviously, the therapists had come through the the
conference.
CHEKs and the closed chain stuff
Yeah.
with Gary Gray, and they had finally realized that they were doing a lot of damage with that isokinetic stuff.
Yes.
And we actually became a standard in every clinic that opened up. So today we're probably in 15 or 20,000 rehab centers around the world.
Yeah.
Affecting millions and millions and millions of people going up and down on our product.
Yes.
Which opened the door when we decided to do a mass exposure to the general public via infomercial.
Right.
But as you know, back when infomercials started, anything that ended up on TV like that was just a gimmick, a piece of junk. Here today, won't be around in a year or two.
Yeah. Well, that didn't work for Total Gym.
It didn't. And we were blessed enough to find a company that really had integrity.
Yes.
And saw our vision, but still thought 3 years. Tom, if you're here in 3 years, you're going to be lucky. I said, no, I think it's more like 10 or 15 years. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we've been the longest running product on TV.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that Total Gym was the most successful infomercial exercise product ever.
Yeah,
and
by far.
Grossed the most. You guys were doing well over 100 million in sales, weren't you?
This is something when I sat there with them, and they had gone through some testing on TV, and it bombed. The test bombed. They were ready to give it up, and I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, wait. You just spent $1 million with Chuck and Christy and putting this thing together. You can't just walk away from it, So they just tweaked the offer a little bit, and the next thing they had it on there, as little as. No, they had something on there where people could calculate the price, make a decision, and not call. So they changed that offer. They said for as little as X amount per month.
Yeah.
And the phone started to ring.
Yeah.
So anyway, they had told me that. I said, well, what did you expect to do the first year? Because when they did their test, it showed they were only going to do X, like 25 million. I said, what were you expecting to do? They said, we were expecting to do over 100 million the first year. I went, what's wrong with 25? Right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they came out of the chute in 1997, and it just blew the phones off the Richter scale. And they did well over 100 million the first year.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
And I think, too, part of it was you chose very wisely to have Chuck Norris in there, particularly because of his fame as a martial artist. And,
That's a whole nother story, Paul.
Is it?
For example, we met Chuck Norris in 1977.
Yeah.
77, way before the infomercial. He wasn't a movie star then. He was a martial artist, and he was just getting into the movies and all that. He fell in love with the product.
Yeah.
Fell in love with it. So for the next, and this will be something for people in business, for the next 20 years now, think of this, next 20 years, we did nothing with Chuck Norris other than about every 2 years, we would get a call from his production people. Can you send a Total Gym to some godforsaken jungle in the Philippines or whatever?
Yeah.
For 20 years, we did that about every 2 years.
Wow.
And then when we were going to do the infomercial, everybody would ask, well, who uses it? And you were saying like the Yankees, Jeff Torborg at the Yankees, Herm Schneider at the Chicago White Sox. He had a quote, I would never put any of my $1 million players on anything other than a Total Gym.
Wow, that's great.
Because there's too much risk.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we went to Chuck, and we said, Chuck, we're thinking about doing an infomercial out to the general public and all that. And he shook his head, and he says, gosh, I love your product. I love you guys, but I just can't risk it. It's just too risky because infomercials were
looked at as junk sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, however, if we put together the right team with integrity and the product with integrity, and we said, well, you've known us now for 22 years. We're not going to do anything other than that.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to find American Telecast.
Yeah.
Within our contract, we did all the design work, so they couldn't change a bolt or anything without our approval. So we built a good quality product. They came with Christy Brinkley as a female male.
Yeah.
And we did the first infomercial, and it just
skyrocketed.
It blew out, And he's still using it today, 80 years old.
Wow.
Uses it every day.
Wondering how old he is, because you remember you referred him to me when he had hip problems, and I went up to his place in L.A., I believe it was, and I worked with him for a few months and helped him through his hip problem. Then he started referring to me people. He referred me some huge Christian strongman. The guy can roll steel frying pans with his bare hands, tear the L.A. phone book in half.
Okay, I remember.
Yeah, massive dude, like 320-pound strongman, which he was a friend of Chuck's. And so I got to know Chuck and worked with him, and he referred me business, and I just think that was one of the catalysts because of him being a famous martial artist, and
Absolutely.
I think it gave credibility to the product.
But he had a natural story. In fact, when we used to do the early infomercials, they would put the teleprompter up there.
Yeah.
And he is the worst at. You can't script Chuck Norris.
Is that right? How does he do TV shows then?
Well, I'll tell you. So anyway, and I couldn't read the teleprompter. They said, read it. I said, I can't even see the teleprompter. I wore glasses at the time. And I said, why are you scripting Chuck Norris? I said, just let him tell him the area you want to get across.
Yeah.
And let him just
talk about
talk it.
Yeah.
And boy, when they started to do that, the whole thing changed.
Yeah.
Because it was natural.
So what does he do his TV shows that way too? He just does it off the cuff?
I think pretty much.
He'd have to if he can.
I think they say, here's the scene. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Go for it.
I don't like being scripted either.
No, I don't either.
I just need bullet points.
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
Muscle activation,
there you
posture.
Go. Exactly.
But as soon as you start putting a bunch of words in there and I have to start thinking about the words, it shuts my flow down.
Yeah. Yeah. So let him get on the machine and talk.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, salt of the earth, super. Just that I call Chuck the on the living room floor kind of guy.
Yeah.
Immediately within a second or two, as you know, you feel like you're
friends with him forever. Yeah.
Exactly.
He is very easy to relate to.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. It's funny because, most people would probably not think that being Texas Ranger and badass dude. They think, got to be careful with this guy. But no, he's actually very cool.
He is a badass.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess with him at 80.
No, yeah, well,
But to answer your question, summarize it, I think the passion for the product, the passion for what it does, the simplicity of it, and the value it brings to the user is still there today.
And the company's gone through massive evolution and growth. I remember you said that the infomercial, without any direct mention of the rehab market, pushed the rehab sales up 600%.
Well, I don't know about percentages, but, the thing was...
That's what I just remembered you telling me, but I might be wrong.
It could be. Well, we went from, at the beginning of it, of maybe 1,000 or 2,000 locations to now, like I say, over 20,000.
Yeah.
The challenge we had... Not in the rehab market, because we had started in the rehab market.
Right.
So they felt proud of the product being successful on TV.
Sure.
Versus the commercial fitness market that looked at the infomercial as a total scam. We would never put this piece of equipment in our health club.
Right.
Very interesting dynamic. And we stayed out of the commercial fitness market for 22 years.
Yeah.
We launched in 2003 or 4, we launched a concept in the health club market called Gravity.
I remember that, yeah.
Multiple total gyms, led by a trainer, which really blew up for us all over the world.
Yeah.
So,
and I was teaching CHEK practitioners from the beginning of the Institute that a total gym was an absolutely essential piece of equipment for your studio or your gym or your clinic or anybody working with, excuse me, people that have any kind of injury is very, very important. And yes, it can be used for fitness, but for me, because I have the access to medicine balls, kettlebells, whatever, the total gym can be used for, if you're in a COVID environment right now, you'd want a total gym for sure.
Yes.
Because
what can't you do on it?
Well, not only that, by the time you go kit yourself out with a whole gym, you're going to spend a lot more money than you would with a total gym.
Yep.
And, if you don't have any training on proper weightlifting and you don't know what you're doing, you can get hurt. But you're not going to probably get yourself hurt on a total gym unless you're just, drinking too much alcohol and smoking too much pot and don't have a brain in your head.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because one of the things that we're seeing now is the life continuum of how the total gym can fit into every aspect. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when Jesse was 4 or 5 years old, trained on total gym, trained medicine balls. Yeah. As he got into a higher level of athletic participation, it was still a part of his training regimen.
Yeah.
As I got older, I noticed it. I noticed I couldn't lift heavy weights anymore. I've had ankle replacement, 2 shoulders. But what do I work on now every day? total gyms.
Yeah.
You know, so that ability for it to kind of thread through our life